Good evening. Welcome back to MLE Sunday night action here on MLE2. My name is Maple, and we are brought to you by APM Music. Joining me on the other side is none other than Bass from the Past. How are you, buddy?
Doing great. We had a great first series of the day there. An unfortunate sort of ending as we did not get to go to the quote-unquote Game 5 that we might have wanted to see. But hey, it's a good lesson for the teams involved here. And the good thing is that the Hurricanes do get a second shot here to redeem themselves a little bit on stream. They lost the first series, but they are back once again, this time with their Champion League team. And it's going to be against the Hawks. Both of these teams, as we were discussing before we got in here, not necessarily horrible seasons for them, but might not be going the ways that they were really expecting.
Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right on that. So far the Hawks are sitting at a record of 16-24, but the story here is that series wins are only 1-7. And then we move over and we look at the Hurricanes, and the Hurricanes are 1-6 in their series and a 14-21 record. But what's interesting, and you and I were kind of talking about this before, is that right now the Hawks are fourth in their division, but they're only 5 games back from making a playoff spot, whereas the Hurricanes are in third, but they're 11 games back. And that tells you kind of our divisional system is really interesting, because when divisions are tight, it makes these races to get into playoff spots a lot closer together.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's a really interesting scenario here to where teams, even if they don't necessarily have the greatest series record, their games really do matter. And that's why we had such an emphasis upon this in the last series that we had seen. It really is important for teams to take every single game seriously. Even if you have already lost the first 3 games of your series, recovering on those back 2 are going to be incredibly important for just keeping yourselves in contention for so many different opportunities. So, game number 1 here. This is going to be an interesting one. Again, both of these teams have a lot on the line here. The Hawks are very close to being able to secure a playoff spot, and the Hurricanes, their season is not out of hand by any stretch of the imagination. So this will be an interesting game. Definitely a lot on the line. A lot of, oh my word, action, though, already, as the Hawks will score within 10 seconds of game number 1.
Wow, that was great. So Squintle with a little poke off the back wall and gone upside down. I was kind of talking about that during the last game and some of the mechanics, but upside down, able to just power that into the net. Only 10 seconds gone, and it's already 1-0 for the Hawks as we watch this team begin to take place. We watch this team's skill begin to show and take place.
It'll be definitely interesting to see what type of response we get out of the Hurricanes here, though, because so far they've been pressed into their own half for quite some time. Don can't get a touch there in the corner, though, so instead it's maybe the first offense for the Hurricanes, but a heavy touch there from Intergalactic Turtle is just going to give away possession, and this is something we were critical last time, but that was in AL. We have moved up to champ now, and yeah, I don't think that they can really afford to be giving away possessions like that.
No, possession is absolutely the name of the game here, and it's a huge key. And just as I say that, Squintle fakes out a defender. Super patient defender goes for it. Squintle says, nah, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and put this in off the side of my car. 2-0 with 48 seconds gone in this game. Is this going to be a runaway, Bass, for the Hawks?
I mean, I'm not expecting that, but so far they're seemingly showing that. A phenomenal fake and then a follow-up shot with the power of Zeus. My, oh my, they're ringing it off the crossbar, but the Hawks have come into this game ferocious. I'm very surprised at the difference between the two teams. We said that this should be a close game. To see this be so one-sided to start has kind of taken my breath away, Maple.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Taking our breath away is absolutely the right statement to make, and as I say that, the ball just gets banged in. Nova Matty is going to push that off the side, but Ghana is going to try and keep that in the offensive end for the Knights. And unfortunately, a little bit of a missed opportunity there for Squintle. Almost made it 3-0.
Nova, though, going to at least rip off another shot here. This offense has been going on for quite some time. If they can get one good shot on target, they might just get themselves a 3rd goal, but instead they do not. Hawks going to try and restart themselves off the wall. Double commitment, though, is going to leave the Hurricanes vulnerable. It's up to Sci-Fi now to try and pull this one out. Oh, and they will do exactly that. Dribbles it around 2 players and cuts the lead in half with 3 minutes remaining.
Well, Sci-Fi has a great play off the wall here to get around Nova, and Gon is a little bit slow getting up on the defensive side. Sci-Fi just puts that past him. As you said, it's only a 1-goal lead here, 3 minutes left. It is anybody's game, and we're finally seeing life on the side of the Hurricanes.
Indeed, it really is anybody's game here. Despite a strong start from the Hawks, a 2-goal lead was not enough security. Now they've got to try and fight for a 3rd goal, maybe get that 2-goal safety back a little bit, but I don't think they will. Oh no, Hurricanes with a good opportunity to at least put a shot on target and pressure the defense, but no save arrives, and the Hawks are pretty confident in their back end. Now even launching their own counterattack, but Sci-Fi will get in the way. Shouldn't be the end of the Hawks offense, though, because this ball just kind of dribbling around midfield, but it might just be Squintle instead decides to wait a little bit. Gives up a lot of pressure, though, and the Hurricanes now starting to launch their own attack. Out of midfield, though, this ball just going to dribble around, and Sci-Fi pops it straight out to center. Are they going to get a second touch? Indeed, they will. Double commitment out of the Hawks are going to leave themselves vulnerable, but no punishment so far here. Hurricanes playing this a little bit patiently for how little time is left in the game.
Yeah, the Hurricanes are being very patient. Just as I say that, a demo goes off by the Hawks here, and sitting on the goal line, the ball is hit out by Sci-Fi, and that ends a pretty tumultuous time there for the Hurricanes, where they could have found themselves down by 2 once again.
There's a chance here, though, for the Hawks to really show some emphasis on this game. They're getting a lot of pressure against the Hurricanes, and they're really throwing off the defense. Demos flying all over the field. And if they can keep this awkwardness up, if they can keep this pressure up and just get the Hurricanes into one more bad position on the back end, they might just secure the game. And not quite able to do that there, though. Nova Maddie instead is going to have to pass it out to the center, where Underdogger is waiting. Hurricanes looking to try and start their own counterattack, but double commitment in the corner is going to be awkward. I don't think that's going to leave anyone in the center. Sci-Fi tries to make up for it and dives in a little bit late, but unfortunately for the Hurricanes, they can't afford to have rotation errors like that. With only about 80 seconds remaining, they need a goal, and they need it quickly.
Yeah, when you're on the offensive rotation, the last thing you want to do is lose that ball because you're not putting enough pressure on. And that's kind of what we saw happen there, unfortunately, by the Hurricanes. And it's not necessarily that the Knights had a spectacular rotation, but as I say that, God comes in off a good demo and is able to go ahead and put that ball in to the net. And I would say that that goal should really, the assist should go to Nova Maddie for an awesome demo that really kind of created a kerfuffle in front of the net for the Hurricanes.
100%. We had mentioned how valuable demos and physical plays were going to be, about how you can make that defense awkward and then just kind of keep that pressure up, and that's exactly what the Hawks did right there. They saw the vulnerability in the defense, and they struck while the iron was hot. Now, all of a sudden, there's only 50 seconds remaining in the Hurricanes. What was a 1-goal comeback is now a 2-goal comeback that they need to make, and it might just be a third if Gon can put this on target a little bit high, so Underdogger will have an easy clear out. The Hurricanes double commit in the midfield there. It's not going to do themselves any favor. The impatience is starting to show as multiple double commits arrive, and the Hurricanes are desperate for that second goal.
The Hurricanes are buzzing here. They're trying, but as you said, that double commit came at a really inopportune time and helped break up that offensive cycle for them. And the Knights were able to take control of that ball and put it back into the Hurricanes' side. But as I say that, the Hurricanes are doing something that they've done for the majority of this game, and that is that they're controlling the midfield. And as a result, they're able to get back on offense pretty quickly. But it's not going to mean anything because the ball is about to hit the ground here as we hit the 0-second mark. And the Hawks are going to take game 1 and lead this series 1-0 with a really good effort here by Gon.
Yeah, it was a really, really good game out of all three players on the Hawks, but definitely Gon, one of the highlights there. 2 goals and an assist for them, really all over the offense. But to be fair, all 3 of the Hawks getting involved in the offense here. All 3 goals were assisted by each player. Gon gets 1, Squintle gets another, and Maddie gets 1 as well. So 3 really good plays out of the Hawks are all that's going to take here. A low-scoring affair at 4 total goals. And I'm starting to wonder, the Hurricanes, 3 shots that entire game. Their hesitation, as great as it is because they're controlling the midfield, they've just got to give themselves more opportunities on offense.
Yeah, they really do. And I think you actually talked about this while we were back in the game, right? And that is that if you're going to double commit, it's going to break up that offensive rotation. And it's important, especially at this level, that you keep offensive pressure going at all times. And if that breaks apart, the defense, unless you're demoing and bumping them really hard, which they're not doing yet, is just going to take the ball, put it up the field, get through that midfield dominance that you've been putting together because your rotations are still kind of mixed up. And we see what happens. 9 shots to 3, that's a significant difference. And right now the Hawks are looking like they came to fight, and the Hurricanes are looking like, they're just kind of here. So let's see if the Hurricanes can step it up because they definitely have the skill. I know Sci-Fry is trying to lead the way, and Turtle and Underdogger. I mean, look at Underdogger, 4 saves in that last game. Definitely a great support.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just going to be those little errors that they need to tighten up here. If the Hurricanes can get a little bit tighter of a rotation, I think that they'll be able to keep that midfield presence a little bit more alive, because we were so complimentary of their midfield presence, but afterwards everything seemed to fall apart. And again, midfield presence showing itself there. A couple of good touches from the Hurricanes, but they can't do anything with it. And they're pressed back into their half once again. Hawks, if they strike early here, Maple, it's going to be real bad for the Hurricanes, because the momentum needs to shift, and it needs to shift quickly.
It does need to shift very quickly. You are completely right. But just as we say this, we're already seeing some shots on the by the Hurricanes, on the Knights net. Some really good offense coming here from a team that is buzzing and working hard. I'd say that there are some 80-mile-an-hour winds here starting to build, favoring the Hurricanes.
And the Hurricanes are starting to show a little bit of offensive pressure, but oh my word, they're going to need to be careful from the solo plays, because Squintle goes off the ceiling with a delayed flip and puts the first goal in.
Wow, Squintle with just an incredible play. Ceiling shot, lots of sick flippies and rotations. And he's able to just get that ball into the net. And what you said was a solo play. 1-0 for the Knights already. And got to see how the Hurricanes are going to come back from this, because if they don't, this is going to be a real shot to the morale right away.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they lose this game. All of a sudden, the Hawks are going to be on series point. They secure that third game. They at least give themselves the series, even though we will play all 5 games. And again, this is really not boding well for the Hurricanes here. Every time they start to get this offensive pressure, I'm just kind of sitting here wondering, when do we actually see a shot? Because I appreciate that they're playing it safe, but sometimes you kind of just got to take a risk, Maple. Otherwise, you're never going to actually find a good offense.
Well, that's exactly it. Is sometimes your offense starts from a really good shot, but just as we say that, Nova Matty with an absolute beautiful banger here, and the Hawks are up 2-0 already. Only a minute and a half gone in this game, so there's lots of time, but a great bounce shot here. Nova Matty reading that defense like a book.
Good stuff so far here for the Hawks once again, but Hurricanes, I'm not going to count them out quite yet. There's plenty of time, and we have seen them score late goals in the series before. But I would say this is still looking a little bit more bleak than the last game, Maple. The offensive presence that was sometimes there for the for the Hurricanes is now non-existent.
Don't worry, Maple's offensive pressure is also non-existent, so don't worry about that. No, you're completely correct, though. You know, your analysis and what you're saying is bang on, in that, you know, if they're not going to be able to get that offensive pressure, and they're not going to be able to kind of make that cool, stunning play that really opens things up and kind of maybe puts a little bit of apprehension into the play of the Knights, if that doesn't happen, the Hurricanes are going to find themselves on series point, as you mentioned.
This is really difficult for the Hurricanes right now, because they are trying to do whatever they can. They're starting to up their pace of play here to try and match the Hawks a little bit, but that might not necessarily be the most beneficial play. They were so good on their defense that maybe they've got to start looking for counterattacks, because sometimes when they go into offense, they do tend to throw a lot of their players into that offense. If they can start getting solo plays, that might do them a little bit more of a favor here. But Maple, I do wonder your take here. What do we need to see out of the Hurricanes if they want to try and bring themselves back into the second game?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I think what we need to see are better and tighter rotations. You know, this is a good example. What we just saw here was a good example, which was 2 players roughly equal distance from the ball, but nobody there to hit it. And when you're on offense, you just need to go. So what I would say is, let's pick up the speed if we're the Hurricanes and we want to try and win this one. And let's take a few chances, because you're already down with 2 with just under 2 minutes left. And, well, you don't want to throw the game away if you don't take any risks and chances. I mean, at this rate, honestly, the Hawks are playing really well, and their rotations are just solid. So you got to do something special in order to beat them.
Yeah, 100%. We've got to see something that just sort of turns that light on for the Hurricanes here, that spark of life that they just don't seem to have right now. They've really struggled to find that offensive pressure here since they started giving up that midfield presence, and I've got to wonder if they can get just one counterattack. Does that put them right back into the series, or are they still going to need a little bit more of a push to try and get this offense alive? Right now, it's still going to be up in the air whether or not they can even get an offense together here, as the Hawks for so long have been pressing here. Nova going to try and maybe push past the midfield, though, because the Hurricanes have at least done a good job of shutting down the initial shot. But unfortunately, as soon as I say that, the caster curse will show its face once again, because finally the Hawks do score.
Oh, Gon just gets an absolutely beautiful touch off the sidewall that goes off the ceiling, and Squintle says, you know what, I can hit this, no problem, and absolutely destroys that ball into the net to make it 3-0. And with a minute left, I'm comfortable saying that I really do think that the Hawks are going to take this game and put the Hurricanes on match point or series point, as you said earlier. But the question is, can the Hurricanes go ahead and at least get one goal back in order to try and move that momentum back and shift it into their favor, as it kind of was for about the first minute of this game?
And I think part of the issue I'm starting to also see is not only are the rotations a little bit off, but when they do break the rotations, they just don't know how to recover afterwards. Finally, the Hurricanes do find themselves one goal, but it's at the fault of the Hawks, to be honest here. No one back. All three of the Hawks players going to offense, and as great as this goal is, you can't really rely on open nets being your only way to score.
No, but you know what? Getting that one goal, having the awareness to get that counter-attack going while your team is overcommitting is something that they need to do. And you know what? It's always good for morale when you can put a ball in the other end. So with only 15 seconds left in this game, I don't expect another goal, but we'll see what happens. But what I do expect is that the Hurricanes are hopefully calming and talking, but Caster's Curse, Underdogger says, I'm sorry, did you just say I can't? Because I can. And he does. And he brings it back within 1 with 7 seconds. Now, nobody wants to count on a kickoff goal, but it is possible, isn't it, Bass?
It's not only possible, but I have a feeling we're about to see a pretty cheeky strategy for the Hawks. Are they going to go for a fake? No, instead, standard kickoff. I think that Squintle was actually waiting for that one in the back end, knew that there might be some sort of trickery, so he kind of held back for a second. Smart play by the Hawks there, very prepared for some sort of difference at the end, but nothing arrives. Once again, the Hurricanes, they're getting close. They're getting momentum in their favor, but Maple, they just can't seem to finish off a game here and get that win.
No, they can't, and part of that is because of the Hawks. The Hawks are absolutely throwing just an absolute huge amount of shots on them. Facing 9 shots, 3 from each of the Hawks, is not easy to deal with. And you know what? We're just going to have to talk a little bit longer because we do need to get a server reset. And so we will do that, and we'll chat a little bit more here. So, you know, this game, obviously, strongly in favor of the Hawks. The Hurricanes did try and turn it around at the end. They got a quick goal due to an empty net and capitalizing on that. And then they were also able to get themselves a really good goal, actually. You know what? It was a 1-goal game that looked like a 3-goal game for almost the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's part of it, is that the Hurricanes, they just need that little bit of momentum in their favor. I feel like a lot of the reason that they are having such issues with rotations, the double commitments and all that, is that there isn't really confidence in their players, which forces them to hesitate. They second-guess everything that they're doing, and all of a sudden, the rotations start to break down. If you just have a player that goes for the ball, just says, hey, this is mine, even if they do make a mistake, and you can be that second man to back them up in case they make a mistake, that is 100% better than neither player calling it out, having a little bit of weird awkwardness, and the both players kind of half commit for the ball. That is something you need to avoid at all costs, and I think that's really starting to drag down the Hurricanes right now. They need to be confident in their play, they need to trust one another, and they need to find those tighter rotations.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I think trust is the key, right? So it looked like to me, now obviously we can't hear any comms or anything like that, but I think we might have some issues here because somebody joined the field, but not all the players are there. So we're probably actually going to need... Oh, are they all here? They are all here. Unreal. And Bass, you get in at the right time. So it looks like we're going to head into Game 3, Hawks and Hurricanes.
This is... Wait a minute. No. Okay, I thought we'd see a kickoff goal right out the bat there. That one was almost off the bar and in. Terrifying start so far here, but hey, you know what? That's the electricity we have come to expect here, Maple. 2 teams just ripping off shots, and let's see which one's the first to strike, as it is the Hurricanes on offense for right now. But once again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but another double commit and another end to the Hurricanes offense.
Yeah, and that's exactly the story of the game, right? The Hurricanes have definitely had really good presence at the midfield, but they're really falling apart here on the offensive rotations. And I was saying kind of earlier when we got into this lobby, and I got a little bit distracted, but I think that the Hurricanes' communication is just a little bit off. I think they need to make sure they're talking to each other. But just as I say that, Gone throws a shot on net that looks like it's going to be really easy to save. But you know what? That's wrong. Sci-Fry's not able to get up and kind of make that save. And as a result, it is a 1-0 game for the Hawks, already less than 1 minute into game 3.
Oh, and I gotta feel bad for Sci-Fi there. He just hesitated a little bit before going into net because he thought that maybe a shot would ring off, but really, you kind of just have to get into the net and then try and pop it out there. Instead, hovering a little bit in no man's land, and all of a sudden, the Hurricanes find themselves down by 1. We mentioned it earlier, Maple. They need momentum in their favor. This is doing them no help whatsoever. Now the Hurricanes have got to try and rebuild this offense. Maybe they can get something started here at midfield. A shot on target, and Maddie not really able to make the save, so it's one easy save apiece that neither side can make.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I was really expecting that Maddie was going to easily have this one, but Maddie did jump into the net to try and make that save and use boost to stay on the goal line. So lots of reverse momentum. Same kind of thing that happened on the other side. The goal line is not able to keep that ball out despite best efforts, and Sci-Fi able to punch it in. Returns this game to basically a new one.
And we're all tied up here once again. This is going to be an interesting series for sure, because I think that the Hurricanes are starting to get a little bit more solid of an offense, but unfortunately their defense still a little bit lackluster, as you see a pass out to the center where Sci-Fi almost gets punished. And all of a sudden, the Hawks back on the prowl once again. They want another goal here. They want to try and take momentum back in their favor, and a bunch of more awkward defense out of the Hurricanes. At this point, I've actually got to be more questionable about the Hawks. You guys have had 2 pretty good chances in a row, but have not been able to capitalize on either one.
Yeah, maybe the server reset is kind of throwing them off a little bit or something like that. But you're right, the Hawks just aren't quite looking like their normal form, or maybe the Hurricanes took the extra, 20 or 30 seconds to talk it out, kind of figure out what they figure they need to do to make things different. And as I say that, there's a swing and a miss by one of the Hawks players, which honestly has been very uncharacteristic of this team that is, for all intents and purposes, really keeping the ball on target.
Oh, well, speaking of on target,
Wow.
That's one of the most ridiculous shots I've seen in quite a minute. That honestly made me question. I was like, is this an own goal, or did Under actually get the shot? No, indeed. Under just gets into this one, pops it to the side, and all of a sudden the Hurricanes taking advantage of when the Hawks are awkward, and that might be the key to victory here. Get the Hawks into weird positions and then strike while you've got a shot.
Yeah, well, I think that the name of the game here is just put that ball on net, and that's what we saw there. It was an awkward situation, an awkward ball, and if I'm one of the Hawks players, I'm probably thinking, this is no problem. He can't score from here. But you know what? Man, absolutely corrected. But just as I say that, Gone, a shot that looks like it's going to hit the post, and it does, inside post, on a great feed from Squintle, and this makes it a 2-2 game with about 2:20 left, and this looks like this is a completely different look, Bass, from games 1 and 2.
100%. All of a sudden, the Hurricanes are really starting to figure out that flow, something we had mentioned they needed to do for the last couple of games. But part of the thing we need to see as well is we need to see the Hawks start to prioritize defense once again. It's getting a little bit sloppy in a couple of different areas, so they're leaving this door wide open for the Hurricanes to try and secure themselves their first win. But we've got 2 minutes remaining, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Either one of these squads could take the momentum in their favor. Double commit, though, out of the Hawks is not going to help them whatsoever, and things are going from bad to worse for the Hawks. We were very complimentary of both their defense and offense before. Now all of a sudden they're having problems on both sides of the pitch.
Yeah, I was mentioning communication issues earlier, and I was saying that it looked like the Hurricanes, but it looks like the Hawks now. We've got a double commit on what could have been a goal on the last kind of sequence of plays for the Hawks and in the Hurricanes' end, and it gets saved and pushed aside by one of their own players. So I think the Hawks are just going to have to take a breath, get back to playing their game if they want to continue to win. And honestly, the Hurricanes just have to keep doing what they're doing because it's working really well here in Game 3.
100%. And part of the issue, I feel like, for the Hawks was that this is actually a lingering problem. Game number 2, we saw the same sort of issue. They gave up 2 goals very late in the series, and it was due to them playing a little too aggressively on offense and not prioritizing their defense enough. And I didn't think that would be a trend, though, as all of a sudden they do go back into offense and finally score. But with only a 1-goal lead with a minute remaining, now comes the hardest part for the Hawks. They've got to figure out this defense and do so quickly.
Yeah, they do. And you know what? With only 1 minute remaining, Squintle has this great play. And again, it's kind of a solo play. It's not a crazy passing play. It's a good air dribble with a couple of touches that advance the ball past one of the Hurricanes defenders. And Gone is in the right place at the right time, as they should be, and puts that ball in the net. But there's still plenty of time for the Hurricanes to bang this up. And just as I say that, we're going to see Underdogger up off the side wall, barely misses that in what looked like it could be a really good passing play and a threatening offensive play.
Unfortunately, just not enough boost in the tank here, and they're going to have to go back to the drawing board as they are on their back heel. Once again, Hurricanes need a good offense right now, and if they can get one, they can keep this game within reach. 2 players commit, though, and all 3 players for the Hurricane are on offense right now. Hawks, you got to go quickly. Nova, I'm not sure what they're doing there, but I'm also not sure what's happening to the defense. The Hawks take forever to get into offense, but seemingly not enough time for the Hurricanes to get ready on the back end.
Yeah, Nova Maddie just makes one heck of a cross-field pass in the midfield there, and I think the Hurricanes must have been boost-starved or something like that because they were slow getting back, and that net, or that shot, which I did not think should go in or was going to go in, does, and it's 4-2 for the Hawks, and the Hawks are going to kind of do the reverse of what they did or what the Hurricanes did to them, which is score 2 late goals to take this game and really shift the momentum back into their favor. They're going to win this series as soon as they get this ball on the ground, and they drop it. 3-0 series win for the Hawks, but we still have 2 games left to play. So what changes here can the Hurricanes make as we move into game 4?
I think they just need to try and, I'd say, put the Hawks in awkward positions, a little bit more often. Part of the reason that the Hurricanes were able to stay in this series was that when they did get into an offense and they started to find that little bit of flow, they did get the Hawks into really weird defenses where they just weren't sure what to do. And that is no accident by any stretch of the imagination. The Hurricanes were doing that intentionally. They were trying to put shots on targets where it would force the Hawks into a weird save. Then someone would have to make a desperation clear, and all of a sudden you've occupied 2 of the Hawks defenders, and it's down to 1 last player. If you can then have 2 players sort of on the rebounds there that can take advantage of that 2v1, all of a sudden you have a really awkward defense that most likely is not going to make the save. So Hurricanes have got to rely on what was working for them there. It's either an awkward defense or a good counterattack, and if you can't really find either of those, the series is most likely not going to go well for you.
Yeah, you're completely right on that. You know what? I think that they do need to do that. They do need to make it awkward. And those 2-on-1s, they've had some opportunities where they've missed the net, and that's kind of what we saw in the ACAD game from earlier today, right? But in this case, what I think they also need to do is get a little more physical. I would really like to see the Hurricanes kind of starting to push and starting to bang and take the body, right? I'm a hockey fan. I love hockey. So take that body, get those players off the field, get some demos in, because that's how you get some of those 2-on-1s that you were talking about earlier.
Oh my word. Speaking of 2-on-1s, this was a 2-on-1 not in favor of the 2 this time. Gong going to have a shot against 2 defenders. Underdogger was there, and so was Intergalactic, but neither one of them makes a save. And unfortunately for the Hurricanes, we said that they needed some momentum in their favor. This is no momentum whatsoever. 5 seconds in, the Hawks have an early lead.
They absolutely do, and I just want to point out that shot might not have looked like it, but that was a half volley, and that was an absolute banger, 132 kilometers an hour, so sitting in the 70 or so mile an hour range. That was a really hard and really good shot. Not easy to save, despite the fact it might have looked.
Yeah, that's a hard shot to save no matter where you are. You got to make sure that the touch is precise, and unfortunately, the precision has not been there quite yet for the Hurricanes. A couple of good opportunities where maybe they can get the momentum back in their favor, but so far it has been difficult. Maybe they can get something together here. Pass out to Sci-Fi goes awry, but at least Underdogger will be there in the corner. But Intergalactic can't make the follow-up, and then as Sci-Fi commits, it's a 3v1. Underdogger has to do the most, and they will come up big there. Prevents the second goal from arriving. But the Hurricanes, their problems are going from bad to worse here. Their rotations are looking extremely sloppy here in game number 4.
They really are looking really sloppy, actually. I'm quite surprised because we didn't really see that in the last game. But you know what? Things change, and from game to game, definitely lots changes. But as I say that, Underdog up on the ceiling misses that opportunity, but a pass off the backboard, and Intergalactic Turtle is going to read that, coming in from the support in 3rd position, scores, making it an even game with 3:45 left here in game 4.
I really do hope that Underdogger is in comms right now going, no, that was a fake. I didn't miss. I faked that. That was an obvious tactical whiff, as we love to call it there. Hurricanes, though, despite the little bit of miscoordination on the offense, will find the goal and now put themselves back to an even series. And the rotations, though, still looking a little bit worrisome for me here, Maple. If they had missed that ball and had not gotten a goal there, that is all 3 players into the final third of the pitch. Hurricanes straight up going all out for pretty much every play right now.
The Hurricanes have already lost the series, right? So there's probably some thought of, hey, we need to get a couple of games. We got to change things up. And, well, I'm not always a fan of changing things up by being significantly more risky, which really diving into the other end with all 3 of your players and not really caring too much about, your defensive side. It's not generally a safe play. I think they do have to do something different. So I'll at least applaud them for that and give them a little bit of credit where it's due, that they are changing something. And so far, at least, it seems to be working, because the game is tied 1-1 and there's still lots of time left to go.
And we are starting to see a little bit more of that physical play that you've been hoping for as well. Demos starting to show themselves on both halves of the pitch here, and honestly, I'm not necessarily sure if that's going to favor either one of the squads more than the other right now. Both teams playing extremely fast. That's another really big difference right now, Maple. The pace of play that we are seeing is insane. Similarly, so is this read from Squintle. I don't think this was going to be an own goal initially, but I also don't know if Sci-Fi actually even had a reason to touch that one.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Sci-Fi touching that is actually what cost them that goal, right? And so Hawks come up with a 1-goal lead here. It's 2-1 with half the game left. And man, you got to wonder, like, someone sitting there in comms probably getting a little bit tilted, a little bit upset, a little bit frustrated. So let's see how the Hurricanes are able to come back from this, because look, they're a good team. I think both of us can agree they've definitely got the skill to do this. I mean, we've seen some really good plays here from Sci-Fi and from and specifically from Underdogger. So I'm kind of curious to see if this onslaught from the Hawks is going to get turned aside, or if it's going to end up resulting in a goal.
I'm very interested to see sort of how this series concludes itself. I know we're not quite there yet. We are in game number 4, but I wonder if this is going to be a near unrecognizable playstyle in comparison to the first game, because the first game was so different than what we're seeing on the pitch right now. It's very fun to watch, but again, fun to watch is one thing, effective is another, and I was about to say, I'm not sure if this fun-to-watch gameplay out of Hurricanes is going to do wonders for them, but apparently it will. Nova Maddie getting a little bit flat-footed there, doesn't even go up for the ball, and it's a freebie for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, I think Nova Maddie probably gives a little bit too much respect to Underdogger, who it seems to be pretty obvious around the beginning of their defensive third, kind of, that there's not going to be another shot. In that case, I think Nova Maddie needs to go up for it, but doesn't. And as a result, Turtle's able to come in and get their second goal of the game and really, really show that they've got some skill here, as I had only mentioned Sci-Fi and Underdogger in the past, but obviously Turtle also wants the recognition that they deserve.
Yeah, and this is a good team. Again, that's the unfortunate thing for both of these teams, is that they've taken so many wins in multiple series this year, but both of them have only been able to get a total of 1 series, and it really is a shame for the amount of skill we're seeing on the pitch. These are 2 squads which could battle it out against so many of the top division leaders here, as Squintle makes another great save, but sometimes that's just the way that the cookie crumbles. You can have multiple 3-2 series in a row and still not win a single one. So both of these squads really pulling out all the stops here, showing how strong they are. I just don't know which one's going to come out on top, because with 40 seconds remaining, the next goal, Maple, is most likely going to be the last one.
Yeah, the golden goal for this game absolutely will likely be the next one that comes out, and I'm kind of curious to see. The Hurricanes are not as aggressive as they were, and I think that they really want to win this game, but the recipe for success for the Hurricanes, in my opinion, has been their aggression. So I think that the biggest mistake they'll make is kind of sit back on their laurels and see if they can make it to overtime and hope that something is going to be different. Be aggressive and show the other team, make them think when we're in overtime we need to be on our back foot because we want to win that game. Hey!
Woo! And there it is. Sci-Fi puts in the third, and all of a sudden it's looking like the Hurricanes will get their first game win of the series. It's a nice shot from Sci-Fi as well, but the unfortunate truth is that it's only game number 1 for them, and with 6 seconds remaining, it's not even a guarantee that we see any interesting strategies off a kickoff. No, standard kickoff here, but I do think it's going in favor of the Hawks now. They're going to be able to keep this one up. Sci-Fry does get in the way, but both Squintle and Maddie are there, but apparently miscoordination once again. The Hawks plagued by their double commits this game, and it's going to cost them dearly as they give up the first win, or excuse me, take their first loss of the series.
Yeah, so the Hawks still managed to pepper with a ton of shots here. You know, they pull off 9 shots, which I just want to point out they've pulled off in every game that they've played so far, if I remember correctly. But what we're seeing is the Hurricanes actually turning on some shots. They got 6 shots in this game, and the Hurricanes also had 6 saves in this game. And that's really a telling story, right? And actually, what I find interesting is I thought Underdogger here has played really well. 2 assists, really good, like 3 saves, most on the team. No goals, but still the MVP of this game, and that's telling, right? You don't need to be the goal scorer all the time. Being that playmaker, being that passer, which is something that Underdogger did a really good job of in this game, is what worked for them and what was successful. So, you know what? Let's see if the Hurricanes can take it back, because only losing 2-3 isn't that bad in the grand scheme of things, the overall picture.
Yeah, no, it really isn't that bad of a game whatsoever here. The Hawks, they do give up an unfortunate loss, but at the same time, like we said, it's really about making sure that they can just play out the end of the series effectively. They've already taken the win. They know that they're going to be able to take at least the series here, give themselves their second win of the season, and it's got to feel good here that they have at least a little bit of room to breathe. So maybe they're just experimenting a little bit, trying out a different offense and a different pace of play, and, you know, just varying their play style, which is not always a bad idea. Even if you do take a couple of losses, at this point, it's really one of these things where you know you've got the win. You aren't out of playoff contention, but it's going to be difficult to come back. So maybe just start working on some different changes for the next season. And Squintle, I don't know how normal this play is, but this is one of the earliest pre-flips I've seen in a minute.
I didn't even realize that. Squintle definitely pre-flips that and floats what I would consider about a foot off the ground, maybe 2 feet off the ground the whole way, but does a really good job and puts that ball in the net. And in typical Hawks fashion here, they're offensive right here off the get-go. And just as I say that, Nova Maddie putting it off the backboard, and Gone is there to get that pass and make it a 2-0 game, only 21 seconds into game number 5.
I'm also starting to notice another pattern here, Maple. When the Hawks score early, the Hawks tend to win the game. They kind of ride that momentum throughout the entirety of the 5 minutes. Whenever the Hurricanes have been able to keep it close, it's usually due to not giving up early goals. And, well, I think we're starting to see a pattern here, because when the Hawks get rolling, there's no way to stop them. 3 goals in 22 seconds. Not looking great for the Hurricanes so far.
No, I couldn't agree more with you. And what this is Nova Maddie having a great speed flip kickoff and just getting there about half a car length before the other team. And I think this is really important. You know, when people talk about mechanics and people talk about being able to do cool things in Rocket League, well, I can tell you that even at this level, speed flips are a huge way to go ahead and pick up some kickoff goals and some really good goals, especially if you like 2s and 1s. So here, mechanics come out to shine there from Nova Maddie on that 3rd goal. And just as I say that, Nova Maddie with another goal in order to make it 4-0. 45 seconds in.
Yeah, the Hawks must be furious about losing the last game. I didn't think that it had angered them that much, but apparently it has, because they've scored more goals than the entire last game at this point. Or, no, actually, I think 1 goal underneath, excuse me, it was 5 goals in the last game. This is kind of wild. They're completely dominating here, and the Hurricanes seem to have no answer. And as their impatience gets the best of them, as all of a sudden all 3 players are on offense, they're doing themselves no favors. Maybe a save off the backboard. No, Turtle misses that one. Shot off target just barely. But the Hawks, they are poised to put in a 5th, and at this point, I don't want to say the game is already wrapped up and that the Hawks have this, but it is not looking great for the Hurricanes. They have no way to slow down this Hawks offense.
And that goal is pounded in. It's going, Gone, and scored by Gone. Indeed, that goal is just a good read off the side wall. None of the defenders there to get it, and Gone is absolutely there, kind of the last player that could have put it in and does. And 5-0. I know we're not supposed to say the game is gone already, and I don't want to provide a caster's curse to anybody, but the Hawks are absolutely buzzing here, and they're showing why the Hawks franchise as a whole is doing quite well this season. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. Do you think that they're going to get some more? Or are they going to kind of rest, relax, and sit back a little bit?
I'm going to just sort of hold my tongue because I've had a pretty good, to put it simply, I've had a pretty good track record of giving teams that I think have a definite win the loss here at a tournament about a week ago where it was a couple of professional teams in OCE and they were up 3-0 with about, I think, 40 seconds left. It's not 6-0 with 3 minutes left, but still, despite that, Game 7, 3-0, they lost. They threw away the game. Did not win, and I've never roasted a team harder, but I've also never been roasted for calling the game that early harder. So, I don't call games anymore. Even with 3 minutes remaining, I'm going to leave this one be, because the Hawks might be dominating for right now, but there is still a chance that the Hurricanes can bring themselves back into this one.
There is a chance that they can bring themselves back into it. You are absolutely correct. It's an unlikely one. The Hawks are absolutely dominating, and I just want to say this. Wow, God, gets himself a hat trick, gets themselves their 4th goal on 6 shots. I mean, a 660% shooting average is incredible in this league. But a 7-0 win, a 7-0 lead already for the Hawks, less than half the game gone. I mean, this is a pretty incredible display, and kind of what I was thinking before that goal happened, and what I was saying is, where was this team the whole way? They've been playing well, but have they been playing this dominating? I'm not quite sure.
I think it's just, honestly, it's sort of this go-go attitude. It's just the, screw it, you know what, we might not win every single challenge, but at least we can go for said challenge. And to be honest, this is kind of the way that I'd recommend them to play every single time. This is something that a lot of pros honestly recommend as well. You second-guess yourself, you're never going to do any favors, and that's kind of the point of a 3-man rotation, is that if number 1 takes it risky and just kind of sends it full send every single time, number 2 will be there to back you up, and that's what we're seeing on repeat here. The pace of play that is being set by the Hawks is benefiting them greatly, because even if they do make a mistake, usually there's someone to back them up. This time, it's a little bit too late. The backup was there, but it arrived just a half a second late, and, well, I'm happy because we get a naturally occurring Brazil. Love to see it.
We do get a naturally occurring Brazil. You're right, because it was 7 goals first for one side and now 1 for the other. The question is, are they going to leave it like this, or is each team... I mean, obviously, we're going to see the Hurricanes continue to try and score, but I'm curious if, just kind of for the laughs or whatever, for the team and what they want, you know, do you think that the Hawks are going to try and slow it down here and keep it 7-1?
I mean, listen, every part of me loves to see the Brazil, but the other part of me is also just going to be realistic here. We said that the Hawks looked angry that they took a loss in game number 4, and that was why they were playing this ferociously in game number 5. If that holds true, I don't think the Hawks are going to show any mercy, because we've already gotten the 8-1. Do they break double digits now is the real question.
Well, that's the real question here, is they're really running away with it. And that last goal is 163 kilometers an hour because those two pushed it off each other. That is incredibly fast, and I think your descriptive word is the best. Sheesh.
Sheesh. And speaking of which, another one, passing play. Does this one top that speed? No, it does not. It's a bullet and a half, though, as this is a great pass from Squintle and a great follow-up from Maddie. And it's looking likely. I think we might just hit those double digits here. We've got 10 total between the two teams, but can we at least get 10 for the one side? The Hawks putting on a clinic right now.
Yeah, the Hawks are absolutely putting on a massive clinic here. And you know what? Currently, the Hawks are 9 for 13 shots. I mean, that kind of shooting percentage is generally not sustainable in a full game, but the Hawks are absolutely destroying and decimating here. And I'm sure that now they want that 10th goal to get into double digits.
I was going to say for a second there, Squintle did just pick up their first shot of the game, but the interesting thing is that they already had a goal. So Squintle was shooting infinite percentage before that. Now they have to unfortunately shoot at 100%. But still, this is kind of just going to show you that the Hawks are not stoppable right now. As much as it may seem that, oh, they're just putting shot after shot after shot, they are putting shot after shot after shot, but they're also not missing most of their shots. Gone 5 for 7, Nova 3 for 7, Squintle at 100%, 1 for 1. They're shooting a very high percentage right now, and it's not due to the fact that the Hurricanes are playing a poor defense, just the Hawks are ripping off these shots.
They're absolutely ripping them. I mean, so many of these shots have just been complete and utter bangers, and none of them have been accidental. It's not like they're, you know, kind of that last game where Squintle was just in the right place at the right time as Sci-Fi pinched it off the backboard. These are bangers and good plays that the Hawks are putting together, and this is a team that we're watching that says, you know what, we want to make the playoffs, we really want to be there, and just as I say, what a save in order to prevent that 10-goal game for the Hawks.
Oh, that would have been great.
Wow.
I would have loved to see it, but instead the Hawks are going to have to, quote, settle with 9-1 here in game number 5. A dominant performance from the Hawks nonetheless there, and I mean... Listen, this is a great game for the Hawks, but I think you and I are both probably left with the same question. Where was this games 1 through 4?
Absolutely. That's kind of the question that I talked to you about, right? Like, we saw a good Hawks team. Don't get me wrong. I think both of us can agree the Hawks were good in games 1, 2, and 3. They were still good in game 4, but the Hurricanes decided to play a different game, to get in, to challenge that ball, and to work a lot harder, right? Well, what we're left with now is something a little bit different. What we were left with was the Hawks turning it on and showing that they can be a devastatingly accurate and strong team here. And so as we come to the conclusion of this series, a 4-1 Hawks win, and we get ready to go into the FL Pandas at Demolition next, Bass, what do you think? What do you think about the Hawks? I mean, they were 1-7. They're now 2-7 in the series record, but I didn't see a 2-7 team. I saw a team that's got the potential to crush as they move forward.
Yeah, and one of the craziest things here is that they've now really put themselves in a playoff position. You were mentioning before the series start that they were 5 games away from their opponents. They just went +4 in that game. They're within 1. They are very close to being able to actually start to creep up on those places above them and get themselves into a playoff position. So for the Hawks here, my advice to you, to be honest, is play how you did in game number 5 the rest of your season. Do not worry about losses. Do not even worry about... okay, maybe worry about defense at least a little bit, but don't necessarily prioritize it. I think a lot of the time when you guys were playing your worst was because of the fact that you were too worried about your defense and were second-guessing what you did, a little bit of hesitation, and it threw you off entirely. Again, that's the point of a 3-man rotation. You have the one that goes for it, plays it risky, the second person who is there to back up, and then the third in case it entirely goes wrong and slows down the play to get you two back. That is what you should be doing the rest of this season, and I really do hope, and I do wish you the best here, because, Hawks, if you can play like this, you deserve a playoff spot.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that you stated it perfectly, and that's probably all that we need to say on that. So let's get ready for the next set of games here in about 15 minutes. And we're going to see 2 amazing casters in Inanimate J and Curtis, or Jurtis as I like to call them, my favorite casting duo. So on behalf of my man Bass, doing play-by-play, I've been Maple, and this has been MLE Action here on MLE2. See you shortly in about 15 minutes when Inanimate J and Curtis take you on to the foundation game between the Pandas and the Demolition.